Hi everyone, I'm Zelo, and you are watching my speedrun of Doom 64, the Unmaking. This is the Watch Me Die speed category done in 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 38 seconds. This is a custom WOD done by Squibba, and this is currently played on version 2.10, which is the latest version as of this recording. The previous record that I had before this was on 2.7, and it was a 138.28, and we'll get into why the time drops so much as this first level plays by. This first level is pretty straightforward. So, a little bit of backstory. When I had finished the previous run on 2.7, I held that for about a year, and then I showcased this run. I've showcased the Unmaking on GDQ Hotfix's show Parallel Universe, which deals with custom ROM hacks and fan games and such. And big shoutouts to both Squibba, the creator of this WOD, and Amorpha for being there. But after that showcase was done, Squibba actually went and decided to make the WOD a little bit more speedrun friendly. So we have a lot of changes that sped things up and made things a little bit more pleasant, and a little bit unpleasant in one specific instance that we'll get into. But I'm going to just kind of cover the mechanics of the run as we go, as this is a very gimmicky WOD. We have these Marines right here as we enter Manic Marines. These are normally used only in the title map in base Doom 64, but they're quite deadly. They're used in a few maps in this WOD, and they have very rapid chain gun fire, kind of like the commandos or heavy weapon dudes in Doom 2, but a little bit slightly less rapid. But we want to get out of their way when possible, because whenever they're active, they try and target something around. They're actively scanning, and they'll usually attack enemies, but if you fire your gun, usually they end up targeting you instead, and we don't want that. So here in Manic Marines, we do need to get the key. We had got the key from this pit earlier. This slime pit is actually one of the things added in version 2.10 to stop you from being able to just kind of try and get past the pinkies. Normally you'd just end up dying if you tried to stay on there too long. It is one of the many changes in 2.10. This does slow it down a little bit, but it is worth playing on 2.10 for several reasons. We'll talk about that in a few maps. But we do have one more change in 2.10 right here. There are two switches in this room now on opposite corners, and we need to hit both of them now. So this level takes a little bit longer. Most levels in this WOD are about the same or quite a bit shorter, and there are quite a few new skips opened up and just some general faster map scripts that really improve the flow of everything. So this one right here for Hex Complex, this is actually a pretty significantly changed level in how you play it, because before enemies would kind of spawn in, and Squibba thought that was a little unfair because they could kind of get a shot off of you before you could attack them due to how the game handles enemies that spawn in. So instead, the enemies spawn into monster closets and then teleport out of those monster closets so you can get immediate shots. So we did a little bit of a skip right there, getting the Berserk by jumping to the platforms a little early. That'll come into play a little bit later. There are still a few time scripts, like right here. We do have to wait a little bit before the platforms in this part to rise and lower to the right spot, because we need to grab the Soul Sphere to trigger the next room transformation. And honestly, this level is a big reason why I love this WOD, as well as many other levels. Squibba took very creative risks, and it's a very experimental WOD. Unfortunate missing that jump right there. But it's just very unique, and it just takes a lot of really cool risks that I think makes it into a very memorable playthrough. We did grab the Berserk, and the Berserk does increase our punching power by 10 times, which is quite a bit, but there's a lot of variance on how powerful the punches are. There's one more skip right here, so if we manage to make it into that alcove just in time, we can get all the way to the secret chain gun that actually spawned on the previous transformation, but we can grab it on the way right here. Unfortunately, I forgot I missed that elevator. But we can grab that chain gun and just jump straight into here without navigating the rest of the room. And then we have one other little trick right here. So we're gonna grab the hidden radiation suit and the extra health. So like I said, enemies teleport in now instead of directly spawning in. We're gonna cover this teleport spot for a bit, and enemies cannot teleport over us. So that cuts down on the number of enemies we need to deal with in this room before we can activate the exit, because this is one of the time scripts again. So there's not too much to really do right here. We just wanted to make sure we keep a lot of health and armor for the next level. We did grab a bunch of bullets. Resource management in this WAD is pretty tricky in some ways. So we do need to kind of keep an eye on some of our resource levels. So once the invisibility ran off right there, then the fireballs from the imps will start targeting you, and it's a little tricky to start dodging them. So that's when we can kind of get off and just head up to the top of the room. There's still significantly less enemies than if we were to deal with the room normally. So like I said, we're waiting out a time script. So going into Warehouse Shuffle right here, there are no changes in this level between 2.7 and the current version 2.10, but we can talk about Doom physics for those of you not familiar with Doom games. So Doom 64 runs on the base Doom engine. It has its own quirks, but a lot of the normal Doom physics apply here, and one of those physics is that because of the way the game actually renders everything, this is actually not true 3D. This is actually a 2D space with kind of Z displacements. That means you can't go over enemies. You can't jump over them. They have infinite height in that regard. And this is actually really bad because we need to make several jumps in this level for Warehouse Shuffle. So we put all the elevators in the right spot so we can finish jumping to the spots we need to get to the end. But we can't jump directly over demons if they're directly below us. So that's why I took a little bit of time earlier to clear out the zombie men and the shotgun guys. Because otherwise they would likely block the jumps and then we just fall down. It's just a total waste of time. So conceptually the level's not difficult in this category. This is the WMD speed category, so Watch Me Die being the hardest difficulty, equivalent to Ultra Violence, and speed is just any percent. That level is really fun for secret hunting, but since this is not a max category, we don't care about the secrets unless they have some goodies that we can use to go faster. So we just leave via the normal exit, and that'll be the recurring theme for every level that has a secret exit. Alright, so let's talk about ghost stories a bit. This is one of the more atmospheric levels, and this is something that Squibba found out, that if you make enemies appear and then interrupt the script, they kind of go into a ghost form where they can't be damaged, but they can damage you, and you can do some fun things with that. So the first part of this level is just kind of navigating, figuring out what to do, just kind of building the tension, and then as we activate more and more switches, more and more things happen. So it's a neat first playthrough. Some really interesting secrets to grab here, but we don't need any of those for this. I also try and prevent a soft lock. I found a soft lock earlier. That door that I just opened before the yellow door, that can somehow get scrambled. I'm not sure how, but it can just be permanently locked, and then you are soft locked out of completed level. So I killed the Spectre because what I suspect was that the Spectre somehow opened it and then, or closed it and somehow messed it up. That's what I suspect. It only happened once, but just be aware of that. We have this Ghost Hell Knight right here, which is very dangerous. Like I said, we can't shoot it, which means we also can't stun it. So we just have to have some very clever movement. So once we get the blue key, we can get out of here. And a lot of enemies spawn at this point. So we have the chain gun with a bunch of bullets. We can just kind of plow through stuff as needed. Be very careful not to fall in the gaps. We want to be running, we want to be strafe running wherever possible. We'll get into the movement a little bit later, but we have a very important skip on this map coming up. Sardine Packing Plant used to be a 2-minute fight, but there is an extra exit switch that is just barely pushable. So we just grab the equipment and then leave. That was actually really easy to push in version, I think it was 2.9 that I found that. So Scribba actually did change it to make it a little bit harder, but still possible. It's kind of a dev skip, so it's nice to still have that in. So shout out to Scribba for keeping that in after I found it. Alright, so Dead Man Switch right here. We have several sectors that are marked on a map in the opening room. You need to clear all the monsters out of those sectors to open the way to the exit. So we have a very specific route because we had to get the yellow key from the bar that opens up a couple areas like the prison here. So it's just a very specific route to minimize backtracking and just be able to clear out all the waves that we need to in order to progress to the end. So we can talk a little bit about the movement now. Like I said, we want to be strafe running wherever possible. The Doom engine adds your velocity vectors together, so running forward or backward and then running side to side adds those together, and you get a 28% speed boost just due to how the math works out with the engine. This chapel right here is slightly changed in later versions. You normally could run straight out of the chapel, but that was causing script issues, so Squibba changed it to where the chapel actually locks for a bit. This is a time script. We just want to make sure we get the Mancubus out of the way by the time we need to leave, and I got beat up pretty badly. I want to conserve ammo here, so I didn't want to fire off too many shells. I probably could fire off more shells with the current route, but... So we go into this room next. This also required the yellow key. Mancubi are a little bit annoying here, but they played pretty nice. They can die in either 3 or 4 direct rocket hits. There's a lot of luck on rocket damage. The splash damage component is always the same, just it's proximity based, but the direct damage is from 20 to 160 damage in increments of 20. And that means your rockets can swing hard in damage, so it can be a little bit annoying depending on the enemy and how much health they have. So coming into the warehouse right here, this has a Lost Soul encounter. The crates always open in the same pattern here, so I know exactly where they're going to spawn. After the last ones are lowered, there are a bunch of Lost Souls on the other side of these crates that all must die in order for the trigger to successfully be activated to exit the level. So I fight everything off in a very specific way and take a very specific route because enemies tend to follow you. Movement is very random, but enemies tend to follow you, so you kind of use that to your advantage. I enter this tower a little bit slowly because I found another soft lock, like not even like 30 minutes after the other soft lock I was talking about in Ghost Stories. Sometimes this tower just instantly rises to the top, and then once you push the switch to lower the floor, you find the door never opened. So I kind of take that slow because it might be speed related. I don't know. If anybody has that happen, please let me know so we can try and look for a fix for that. But thankfully, nothing bad happened here. We just kill the enemies, push the switch to get out. So only 2 more areas left here, so grabbing the rad suit triggers this. So the Cacodemons here have such a big hitbox that by standing against that pillar right there behind me, I was actually able to spawn block one Cacodemon from showing up. So spawn blocking works is if you or any kind of other like physical entity like another enemy is in the spot where an enemy would spawn, it can't spawn. So that's really nice when you just have to fight one less enemy. I could have done that on the Spectres there too, but I unfortunately walked out of position, so just had to fight an extra Spectre for no real reason, so just a silly time loss. This tower is a little bit annoying because the enemies come at really odd angles here. And it's very easy for them to kind of get pushed by your weapons, like that Lost Soul kind of got pushed for a bit. Or that Cacodemon as well. Unfortunately, it's very easy for them to get pushed, and your weapons don't really reach far enough. They kind of auto-aim due to how the engine works. Which is not always the best, especially when you have a giant wall kind of blocking things in front of you. But this went okay overall. Yeah, once you've completed all of the little killing challenges, you go back to the center of the map where the base is, and you can finally exit the level. It is a really neat first playthrough, but it takes a while to figure out what to do. Alright, so this is the Unabsolution. This is the end of the first episode. We just had to fight a Mother Demon, but we don't have any good energy weapons at this point, so we have to rely on the rocket launcher. And this Mother Demon does not like to cooperate for me a lot. The missiles do lots of damage. They're very annoying to try and steer into the wall so they stop following you. I just kind of wing it sometimes like this. If you get launched out of the arena, there are hidden teleporters out there that take you to the Megaspheres, which can be very useful. But thankfully that run as a whole, that fight went really well. And then when you exit that, you do have a death exit. So the WAD is roughly broken up into several episodes, and at the end of every episode, you do have a death exit that resets your equipment. So we're starting Dig Your Own Grave with no equipment and just have to start from the beginning here. So this is one of the more annoying levels to run. It's a very dark level. It's a cool concept, but there are some factors where it's difficult to manage here. So I want to conserve a lot of ammo, especially for the next level. So this is why you can see me just kind of switching between the pistol and the shotgun, because I don't need to use the shotgun on the zombie men here. I can just kind of pistol them out and just kind of save my shotgun ammo a little bit. But there's just a lot of ammo management going on. I need to collect a whole bunch of ammo too. They're all on the sides here. It's very difficult to see and very difficult to keep track of this whole area. We will get some stuff a little bit later. There is one very important trick in this level. 2 room transformations from now. We definitely try and get rid of the zombie men and the shotgun guys first because they move really slowly. The pinkies and the specters move at you much faster. So it's fine to just kind of let them roam and come towards you. So I like using the invisibility sphere in this room as kind of my target of where to be. So that's where I want to be when this room transforms. And I did miss a specter at first, but thankfully it was walking towards me, so I kind of figured where to go. But this has a bunch of nightmare imps. I do like the change to nightmare imps in this WAD. They're a very, very bright blue. Makes them easier to see. And I think the color is really neat as well. I do grab a light amplification goggles here because, like I said, this level's really dark, and being able to see, especially in this final encounter, is really useful and I think worth the time. So we pick up a little bit more ammo here, kind of dance around. Now, there is one important trick coming up after we kill the last nightmare imps. So we're at the spot where I want to be when this room transforms. There is a hidden rocket launcher that you normally have to shoot a switch to lower the pedestal. We're not going to do that. We can jump straight in from here. So that saves a whole bunch of headache, and that rocket launcher is very useful for the next level to save on some encounters. So after we get that rocket launcher, we wake the Lost Souls up, wake everything up using the chain gun. We grab the Berserk. We'll use that a little bit later. We'll punch out that Spectre first. But we want to get the Lost Souls out of the way first. And then there are also a bunch of Cacodemons with these Spectres. So the goal is to get enemies to infight. So infighting is a little weird with flying enemies. You can't... Like, the enemies technically have infinite height from a blocking perspective, but you can't hit the Cacodemons if they're too high or too low. Like, your punch will just unfortunately whiff every time, as you can see right there. But that doesn't apply to other enemies' melee attacks. So these Spectres can actually hit the Cacodemons from way lower. Unfortunate death right there. Thankfully it wasn't a very costly one since I quick saved. But yeah, the goal is to get the Spectres to infight with the Cacodemons. Same type monsters can't fight each other aside from hit scanners, but different types of monsters can. And even if like the Cacodemons are all the way at the very top of the room, the Spectre's bite attack can still affect them. Now, unfortunately I was getting a little bit impatient here, and these Cacos were not cooperating, so I just resorted to using the shotgun here. So I was down a little bit more ammo than I would have liked, but sometimes they just don't cooperate. But yeah, one of the more difficult levels to do in a run. So blast processing here is pretty neat. This is a bunch of mini challenges. This level is why we wanted to bring in a lot of ammo. So we have these frozen Cacodemons that we have to steer these Revenant rockets into. Revenants don't exist in Doom 64, but their missiles still do. So they kind of get used as wall turrets. So we kind of bait these wall turret missiles into the cacodemons. So we do that for the first 3, but this is like a significant strategy change from the old run I did. We're just gonna directly kill this one, because going to that room over there takes a long time to drag missiles over there, and then you have to climb out as well. It's just a big time waste. So being able to just chain gun from the window saves so much time. And then we have another route change right here, so I'm actually going to do the obstacle course first. There's a reason for that, but we're going to get this involved first. Very useful to be able to just run straight across. Just have to be very careful not to get blown off by barrels. Just take very, very specific lines. I got caught right there, but I take a very specific line right there so I can move past the rest of the barrels as they respawn. And otherwise, the course goes smoothly right here. I even got lucky here where several barrels decided not to blow up in a chain, so I could just run right past. So after we finish the obstacle course here, we're actually going to go back and we're going to pick up this secret berserk pack, which both refills the health and gives us the punching power that we need, which is very important for this arena coming up. This arena was also changed a bit. It's also... Well, I don't think it was time-based. It was based on killing them before. But we're going to clear enemies out first, because it's very dangerous to try and punch them over the slime. The slime does damage you a lot. So we're going to activate this set of barrels and kind of weaken the imps, and then deal with the imps using the chain gun ammo we have. And then this is why we picked up the berserk, because now we can just punch all these pinkies to death. The intended strat for this, if you don't come in with equipment, is to constantly have those barrels blow up, which is very, very, very slow. I did talk about how I was a little bit low on ammo, so I did decide on the fly to pick up one other secret. There is a shotgun secret with some shells. If you make this jump right here to this ledge, and you fall right down onto a secret sector with a shotgun and several shells. And that ended up being very useful long term, and it doesn't take too long to get that. And we used the rockets here to clear out the cacodemons. This is another room where you would have to have explosives deal with enemies, but it's so much faster and easier to just deal with them yourself. So, rocket out that caco, punch out the pinkies. The cacos don't like to come down, so unfortunately I can't berserk punch them, but thankfully we have enough shotgun ammo to take them out right here. It is a really cool level, and a good change of pace from how Doom 64 levels are with the combat, but it definitely took a while to reroute that. Alright, so Crossrun Crossfire, there's no changes in this map for current version. But I did adjust the rocket route a bit, so as you can see, the gimmick here is you constantly are flanked by enemies on both sides, and you have to manage fighting them off on both sides. I got pretty trapped right there, so I lost all the extra health that I carried, which was a little scary. But in this run, the rocket management is significantly better. You want to be able to either target groups of enemies, or target far away enemies where your shotgun's not going to be able to reach. Because the super shotgun does a lot of damage. It shoots 20 pellets as opposed to 7, which the regular shotgun does. So it's about triple the strength of a normal shotgun shot despite firing 2 shells. Which is a very interesting design decision. But the spread is big, so you want to be close if possible. So we're picking up rockets wherever we can, which is why we got that first secret earlier after the first encounter. More sniping right here. This normal shotgun would technically be better. It fires a little bit faster, but I like the reliable damage there with the SSG. And we deal with the Mancubi right here. Just slowly inch our way over. This is very much a level where you control the space. I didn't realize my health got so low. It's scary. We'll lure those Hell Knights out. We will pick up one other secret coming up. There is a very useful Soul Sphere, because it's very easy to die with how little health you normally get in this level. But we activate this hidden torch by shooting at it, and that lowers the platform for the Soul Sphere. So a lot of Hell Knights here, so more rockets needed, and there's a bunch of other cacos on the other side. Now, The Hell Knights that we left before, they like to kind of get in the way of shots and get distracted by the Cacos that are on the other side of them. So this is actually beneficial for us because it usually keeps them out of the way. Unfortunately, I was supposed to kill those Hell Knights before I left this area, and I didn't, and this will come back and bite me later. Anyways, in this room, we just pick up the rocket packs. There are a bunch of rockets next to the Mancubi, but it really isn't worth it to get them because you would have to kill the Mancubi to even pick them up. So you just kind of waste time going for them. So I trigger the next encounter, realize the Hell Knights are in the pit right here, and by the way, falling into the pit is... it's inescapable, so you cannot afford to fall off because you'll just slowly die. The tricky part about this last encounter is you have very little room to maneuver, and both the SSG and the rocket launcher have a little bit of knockback every time they fire. So you have to be very careful with your spacing to make sure you're not going to push yourself over the edge, especially on this very last wave, which is several Arachnotrons flanking you. So again, space control very important here, just kind of move in very slow spurts so you don't run out of room. And then we have 2 sets of Barons on the opposite sides of the hallway, so we just need to just group them up and deal with the rocket launcher. Overall, this was a good run of the level, despite some slight mishaps like the Hell Knight thing, but it's a very scary level to get through first try, so I'm happy to get through it. It is a very cool level and very fun to play. We get the last of the rockets here. We don't need too many. We just want to make sure they're all dead. Grab a few shells and then into the next level, which you're not going to be seeing a lot of. Because Walled Garden is normally a puzzle box level, and you go secret hunting, and eventually, if you're clever enough, you find out how to get to the secret exit. We don't need to do that. There's several normal exits in this level, so we're just going to visit the earliest one we can and just bounce, since this is only the speed category. We have no need to play the secret levels here. And with that, we go from one of the shortest levels in the WOD to the longest level in the WOD. This is when hell freezes over. And this one is all about time scripts. This is all about controlling the space right here. So whenever you walk into several of these rooms, timers start, and over time, the walls will eventually lower to where you can progress to the next area. Unfortunately, killing enemies does not make this go any faster. So this is an unavoidable 8 to 8.5 minutes. It is a neat level because this is very much control the space. So whenever you are not in the lighted zones, you take damage over time from the cold, and I think that's a really neat gimmick. But this is a very, very long sequence, and I do have to pay attention. It's not the it's not the easiest thing to worry about. Ammo management is tricky, and I have to manage things in a very certain way as we get towards the end of the level to make sure I don't die. There will be a little bit to talk about in the next room after we transform, start the script in that. But after that, I will just probably be silent for a good 5 to 6 minutes or so, since there won't be too much to talk about afterwards. We're waiting on the Cacodemons to spawn right here. So once the Cacodemons spawn in this room, we're pretty close to where that far shelf is going to finish lowering. We go over here, we activate the switch. So there are 2 secrets we need to activate in this room. So we go up to this, which has shells, turn to the right and hit a switch right there on the wall. This gets us the BFG. We want the cells. And then we go and hit another switch right here. And that switch, I wasn't sure if I had hit it at first, so I went back to do it again just to be safe. Thankfully, in recent versions of the UnMaking, that platform is a lot easier to get to. So it's easier to be able to hit that switch. So that activates a hidden Megasphere, which Megaspheres refill you to 200 health, 200 armor, which is very useful because, especially with how the game calculates armor, if you have the green armor, the normal security armor, that gives you 100 points and 1/3 damage protection. If you have the combat blue armor, that gives you 200 points and half damage protection. And if you pick up a Megasphere, that counts as blue armor. So we want to just kind of grab that megasphere as we're starting to run out of armor, and just kind of make our resources last as long as possible, because we have to constantly go back and forth to get more shells, more rockets, more bullets. We'll eventually take some damage here and there from floors, from tacks. It's just keeping up the defense for another 5 minutes or so. So it is long, and it's not super tense, but I do have to pay attention the entire time. So there's a big bookshelf over there. You might see the exit signs. That will lower after a long enough time, and that'll be our exit. But I do want to quickly call out before I take a break. Squidba did some significant texture reworking and such when redoing this WAD for the 2.8 and plus releases. You might be able to see like the icicles on the ceiling over the holes. Like, that's a new thing, and it's really neat to look at and really helps. It's really appealing with how much more polished the WAD feels. And it's a lot of why this is my favorite Doom 64 custom WAD. But as far as things going here, we're going to be fighting off Pinkies for a while. Then eventually Cacodemons will spawn in. And then Hell Knights will spawn in. And then at the very end, Pain Element will spawn in. And when the Pain Element will spawn in, that is the very end of everything. Before that happens, we do need to take those invulnerability spheres at some point. We have to go recharge, get more rockets from the downstairs area that we visited, and then we will use the other invulnerability to safely get away from the panel metals while the exit is finished lowering. So it's going to be like about another 4-ish minutes or so. So I am going to take a break from talking, and you can skip ahead if needed, or you can continue watching, and I will be back once this level ends. Alrighty, y'all, I'm back as we're wrapping up this level. So we're just gonna get in the exit here and leave and head into Sickblade Symmetry. So the gimmick for Sickblade Symmetry coming up is that you need to find the correct enemy and kill it, and that will crush everything else and start the next set of enemies. There are now 2 sets of enemies, depending on when you cross a line def in the first room now. So due to how the RNG sequence works with the luck, and how this is kind of how the RNG index works. It's you as long as you exit the room as fast as possible, you'll get the very fast pattern where the nightmare imp you need to kill is directly behind and to the right of you. But both patterns are pretty equivalent as long as you know where to go. You just have to change the strategy a little bit, and I've posted videos about that route change in case you need it. But yeah, we just kill the necessary enemies, flip 2 switches, 1 on each end of the hallway, and these lower the exit teleporters. Just take either one to leave. So Mercurial Minions is one of the biggest maps in the entire WOD, and it had quite a few scripts changed out, either reducing the time limits on some or just completely removing time limits and making them like more kill based and such. So the level was sped up quite a bit, especially for how big it is, because it did feel like kind of a slog before. Like in this area right here, as long as we don't fire, we won't wake up the Marines. So it's a good time to just get the flip the hidden switch that gets us the secret cell, just because we want more plasma ammo, because we do need the BFG with some ammo for the next level coming up, but we do pick up some cells where we can. I forgot I missed that key grab. A silly one to miss. This strat coming up, you normally need to hit a switch to make the walls coming up lower. You can actually go up onto this platform here that would take you to a secret if you had another key that you get later. Hopping over the wall triggers the script as well. This saves a whole 1 second. But hey, it's faster and it looks cooler, so I can't complain. I got blocked, so that's a good example of enemies having infinite height where the pinkies were blocking me all the way from below. Okay, so coming up next after we grab the blue key, we're going to manipulate enemies to move in a certain way so we can get into spots. So I'm going to kind of just dodge around, fire the shotgun there, and the Hell Knights will generally move in a specific way. So I can just kind of dart around them instead of having to do any fighting. Now, this Kako was all the way above me and blocking my path out, so I had to go around. But at least got out pretty unscathed. This next room, though, is really dangerous when I hit this switch because a bunch of enemies spawn in. And it includes, like, several Marines, several Arachnotrons. Arachnotrons are incredibly dangerous in Doom 64 if you're not familiar with them. The twin plasma gun is very, very difficult to dodge, and they fire very rapidly. Grab the Mega, grab some more cells from the backpack, and get the key to get out. Being very careful to stun that Pan Elemental as I go by, because Pan Elementals in Doom 64, if you try and block the Lost Souls with your body like you can in Doom 2, they just explode in your face for rocket damage and usually kill you. You don't want that. So, Chain Gun's very good at just kind of stun locking. So this last room right here, after we hit the switch, this is a bunch of kill-based scripts now instead of timers. So all we need to do is kill this wave of Mancubi, kill a wave of Arachnotrons next, and then we'll deal with the final wave in just a second. The Marines that spawn in the middle can be useful for distracting the enemies, but with how I deal with the room, it's not really a problem anymore. So we get rid of all the Arachnotrons. The final wave has a Pain Elemental and a Mother Demon spawning at opposite ends of the room, so we're going to actually block the Mother Demon from showing up. So I wait just a little bit there just to make sure this I don't jump the gun. And then all we have to do is just kill the Pain Elemental and we can leave this way. So it saves a lot of effort doing that block. So for Infinity Gauntlet, this is why we got the BFG and a bunch of cells. We're going to soften up these two Cyber Demons with rockets. Rockets are unfortunately not the best thing to use against them because Cyber Demons are immune to rocket splash damage. And the direct damage, like I mentioned earlier, is incredibly variable. So we kind of make a few passes on these staircases just to make sure we're going to deal enough damage, because we're going to get in their face and slam them with the BFG, which unfortunately I was not very successful at in this run. But how the BFG works, for those not familiar, it fires the main ball, which does several hundred damage, very random amount, but when the ball detonates, many invisible tracers are fired from Doomguy's current position at the angle the ball was fired at. So this means we want to just we just want to fire the shot and then run directly to our target and give it a big hug. That's how you get the most damage out of it. And that's also very dangerous because, as you can see like that, you can get popped in the face with a rocket and die instantly. But it's the best method I found because using rockets takes forever and other plasma weapons are not any good at this point. We get another death exit to finish out the episode. That's episode 2 down. And that brings us into episode 3 with another equipment reset here. Do Not Wake Mother is pretty neat. This is one of my favorite levels in the WoD. This is another one of the puzzle levels. The title's pretty self-explanatory. You need to get through this level without waking a whole bunch of mother demons up. Because if any of them manage to hear your shot when you're solving these puzzles, they will teleport to the final arena and just beat the shit out of you. Because you are not going to be equipped to fight mother demons. So the gimmick is to use switches to close doors and stop the mother demons from being able to hear you as you're solving these puzzles. So we're actually going to be picking up secrets. This is like one of the few times where we basically WMD-Max this level at a speed setting. Because the secrets are very useful. We're going to get a green armor that's hidden behind here. Reduce damage for a while because that's just very useful for general survival. And then on the other end of this hallway here, there is a plasma cell that has the nightmare property attached to it, which we can talk about a little bit later. But we want this cell because we're actually going to be using the UnMaker, which is the special plasma-based weapon that's exclusive to Doom 64. At least until Eternal, once we got a new UnMaker. But it's going to be very useful, so we're going to stock up on cells and just kind of keep flipping these rooms. We are also going to pick up the first demon key. This one spawns in now, so you can technically get away with not getting it for a while. You can pick it up at the very end of the level in later versions of the UnMaking by going back through a teleporter that'll take you to it. But we want to get this one now because we ideally don't want to have to backtrack. And with the new strats, unless our health situation is really low, we don't need it. We don't need to do the backtracking. So we pick up the key now, especially since we can drop down and do the puzzle anyways. So, after this last little puzzle here, we start a wave of fights against some zombie men and marines. It's important to note that the second wave is nightmare zombie men. So the nightmare property turns the monster green, and this also buffs their health to be double what it normally is. This isn't too much of a concern for just the zombie men here. They usually die in 1 or 2 shots from the UnMaker, but it's going to be very important for later. We block one marine from spawning right there because the marines are incredibly dangerous still. They can just chew through your health like no one's business. We also pick up some clips along the way here, just being very careful to conserve cells, because we do need those cells coming in. So in going nowhere fast, the gimmick of this is that we're racing. A timer starts when you exit that hallway there. We need to beat that timer. So we're going to take a very specific route and make our way past these barrels. We're going to pick up a rad suit on the way. And we can take direct lines to this slime. We're going to be picking up a whole bunch of cells and still making it to the switch that's at the end of this before the timer runs out. This used to be easier in earlier versions because in earlier versions you could access a secret without a key that also led to more cells, but that secret now requires a key. But thankfully this new route you can just barely still make the 1 cycle. So, very happy to get that. So, in order to get the red key safely, that's needed to progress, we do need to wait for this timer. There's nothing we can really do about this. We need to wait for the timer to teleport us out of the hole that we're going to get ourselves into. So I wait until roughly once that timer's like about the last 4 or 5 notches. We pick up the red key, dodge any rockets that would come out of the cyber demon there, and then we can teleport out and get to the exit. It's a very interesting level to do search for the secret exit, but thankfully we don't have to do that in this category. Monuments and Cement God had a lot of other script changes here. We're going to conserve cells for a little bit longer, so we're going to rely on the shotgun a bit. But thankfully this level was sped up quite a bit. There are a lot less timer-based scripts in this level, and more of the enemy-based ones. So it's just, it feels a lot better. I did have an unfortunate death coming up, I think, because I got completely destroyed by all these hit scanners here. Yeah, shotgunners and zombie men, if they choose to shoot you, there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can dodge, they just target you instantly, so I just got my health all chewed out and just keeled over on the next couple of hits here. So right here, all these walls lower now all at the same time, which is really nice. You can just get out, they're not timed anymore. This labyrinth room is important here. So we actually just blocked a nightmare Hell Knight from showing up, because this room's scripts are now tied to barrels showing up and being blown up. So I have a very specific route for blowing up the barrels, which will advance the room scripts that cause a lot of the platforms to fall. And once we get rid of all of the barrels, the whole platform gives way. And we can do this really important skip right here, which is why I save after getting rid of that last barrel. We can jump straight into the fire ring, which skips a huge fight. We do lose out on the super shotgun for now, but we don't need it for this level, so it's okay. It's just more important to just get out of that fight, because that is a very long and involved fight if you do not do that skip. So the geometry on this island in particular is very interesting. It's very easy to get caught. So I take very specific paths. We're going to also book it to this elevator before it opens, before it raises up further. This drags the Mancubus that showed up into a favorable spot to be able to block a panel from showing up. The less panels we deal with, the better. And we do need to kill everything in here, not because it's tied to a script, but because we have to come through this area later, and the enemies can actually block like the bridge from raising later, or just they can just chew our health up from way down there. Clear out enemies for now while we're waiting. It's always good to just kind of clear stuff out if you're waiting here. Enemies were not in good a position there, so I kind of darted off to the side. This Cacodemon still didn't want to cooperate. We were able to get out okay. Barely made that jump right there. I would have been very sad if I'd missed that, because that is a very costly jump to miss. So after we hit those switches and hit this teleporter, this is also another enemy-based room now. We just want to kill everything as fast as possible. So we did pick up the demon key in Do Not Wake Mother. That means the 1 key Unmaker, since the Unmaker gets powered up by the number of demon keys you have, this is already better than the plasma gun. So the plasma gun is worthless for a run. We're going to block one Cacodemon right here by standing in its place. Deal with the other Nightmare Cacodemons. It's all Nightmare monsters in this area, so everything has quite a bit more health, so I have to be very careful. And enemy projectiles are also much faster, too. They have the Nightmare property. We'll deal with the zombie men here, and then we're going to block one more Mancubus from showing up, so that we only have to deal with one of them. And I took a very specific route so I could top off on cell ammo. We're going to exit with 300 cells as we get out of here. Alright, so Prismatagoria coming up. Used to be the longest level in the run, I think. Oh, hold on. This is Prismatagoria. Never mind. We'll get to that in a bit. This is misaligned and maligned. We'll get to Prismatagoria in just a bit. This level has a dev-intended skip. We only need to do the switch puzzles for the first room. So the first one right there, you just hit that right switch. You just have to raise the bridges in a certain way. The solutions are the same every time, so it's pretty easy to run. thankfully this is generally not a scary level to get through. There's resources if you need them. And like I said, you have a 1-key unmaker that's plenty good enough to get through this level. Like, just as long as you're not taking big hits from stronger enemies like Cacodemons and Hell Knights, you're pretty safe in this level as a whole. It's definitely one of the easier levels to get through. The switch puzzle coming up is you hit the middle switch twice and then the ones on the side once. I check and make sure I didn't miss switches by accident. So, coming up in the courtyard past the red key, there is a dev-intended skip because there is a hidden switch that you can hit with any kind of hit scan weapon. And surprisingly enough, the Unmaker actually is a hit scan weapon, despite these lasers it fires at. It's just a graphical thing, but it actually counts as more like a very powerful chain gun. So hitting that switch in that secret teleporter area not only raises the platform to get to the Soul Sphere, but also lets us get the yellow key early, so we completely skip the rest of that room. So that allows us to get to the exit earlier. It's just a nice little thing. And it's also nice to have extra health going into the next level, which actually is Prismatagoria. So this used to be the longest level in the run by far, being well over 11 minutes. There was a lot of waiting. In 2.8 and up, this was significantly changed. Every room except for the Yellow Canyon area has been changed in some way or form, and there are a lot more scripts that rely on killing enemies instead of timers. There is one timer script still, but we don't have to worry too much about that. So we're going to take very specific routes right here. We're going to go to the blue room first. I love this background skybox, by the way. We're going to go here first because we're going to get rid of the Nightmare Ractrons. The plasma bolts on those are just ridiculously fast, so we just kind of stun them down with the Unmaker. And then we do wait out a time script for a bit. We don't have to worry too much. This platform finally lowers after a while, and we can get to the exit. But we are going to make one detour, which is debatable whether it's worth it in this version of the WoD, but I think it's worth it just to save myself some trouble. We're going to grab this hidden backpack that's right here. This takes about 15 seconds to get, but having the doubled ammo capacity for the end of this level, as well as the level in 2 levels from now, I think it's worth it, being able to carry 600 cells into that. Because those fights are very, very scary, especially since, unlike previous runs, I'm not going to get a second demon key in this episode like I used to, just to how the route works out. Alright, so we have one very important skip in the Starburst room right here. This was added recently. We're going to start this script. Once we grab the rocket launcher, a hidden hallway does open, like a wall lowers. You have to kind of tap against the wall. You don't have to press anything, but there's now a gap. By the way, Squibba says trans rights, because trans rights are important. This is not debatable. But the trans rights shrine switch that's there does open up the exit teleporter early, so we can just leave this instantly. This used to be a very long fight. And interestingly, that would actually be used in Max, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Right here, I need to not pick up this Mega Armor. That's very critical. So I want to pick up only the Cell Pack. I want to leave that Mega Armor for the very end of the level, because I need it for a skip later on. The canyon right here, the Red Canyon, is pretty neat. This was the most changed room out of everything in this version of the WoD. It's neat. You just kind of pick up the invisibility spheres, and platforms lower down. You just kind of navigate around. Definitely more interesting than the other timed fight that it used to be. And usually the Mancubi on the canyon walls don't bother you unless you take too long. Unfortunately here I did fall, and that was annoying because that is kind of a long way to get back up. I don't remember where I was. So, unfortunate time lost there. But like I said, the Mancubi at least mostly leave you alone as long as you work quickly. So, after we get that last invisibility sphere, it's just a walk into the shrine at the top and being able to leave. So, we got a minute wait coming up right here as we enter the Dark Forest Shrine, so I will talk just a little bit about what I was talking about in the Starburst room. So being able to leave that early is obviously very useful for speed. But I believe we can actually use that for the max category, which is 100% kills and 100% secrets on every level. Because being able to leave that means we can do other stuff while we're waiting for more and more enemies to spawn in, waiting for that timer to run out, and we can come back with a bunch of cells. So even in a max setting, that kind of skip is still useful. So it's always worth exploring your options, because you never know what categories you can apply them to. Anyways, in this Dark Forest area, once we get into the room and pick up stuff in the middle, it takes about a minute for the exit to open. So I actually watch my live split timer, and I want to grab the invulnerability at a very specific time and carry that into the canyon fight coming up. And this area is actually significantly easier as well. Compared to the old version where there were a bunch of like cack demons that popped out of the woods. It's significantly easier to get through that. So this is the only room that was not changed. But we take the Nightmare Cyber down using the invulnerability we grabbed. Just kind of face tank and just keep bashing the BFG against it. It's just easier that way. So we grab the cells on our way out because now we have the scariest room in this entire map by far. Once we pick up a soul sphere here, a bunch of nightmare pain elementals spawn in, and I haven't really 100% worked out the positions. It's also very difficult to see them due to the effects, so I don't really have a good plan, and I kind of wish I had a better plan. But the critical thing is that we need to not be too close when they die, because otherwise we get the splash damage, which pretty much kills us. And along the way we need to grab cells as needed for our BFG shots. But after we kill everything, we also need to pick up not only a soul sphere to refill the 200 health, we need to pick up that mega armor that I skipped earlier. Because we need that for the very next level, for a very important skip. Once we've dealt with all of the pain elementals, we go around, grabbing the supplies here. So top off on cells, top off on health, grab that mega armor, and then we can enter any of the exit teleporters. That'll take us to the little room with the sequence to escape the illusion. Okay. So Flotsam International Sea was a it was a huge map, but it was shortened down a little bit, and that's kind of significant for this route because we're going to carry the 200 health and 200 armor all the way to the end for the big skip. There is no longer a Mega Sphere in this version of the map, which is why we had to save the Mega Armor for the end of Prismatagoria, because we're going to get straight to the exit. With full health and armor and good luck, we can manage to make it past this dart trap alive. Normally you need the red key to close these dart traps from happening, but if you have really, really good health and armor and really good luck, you can get through just like that. And you can just jump straight to the exit. And that takes less than a minute that way. Like 35 seconds right there. So that skips the entire map. And it's also part of the reason why I didn't want to try and grab the other demon key that's in that level, because I couldn't preserve that health. And it would take a long time to get it. That would only be used in this level anyways. So this is a lot of fighting here in how many demons can dance. We're standing over a spawn point for a little bit, just to stop more pinkies from spawning in. So the first 3 waves in this map are kill-based, so we need to kill everything in order to leave. The 4th and final wave is a timer-based script, so we just need to wait that one out, but that one is also very dangerous, so I want to preserve cells where possible. Like, we did carry a lot of them in, but I still want to preserve cells where possible, using the BFG either on big groups of enemies, or to deal with the really, really dangerous ones quickly. So I try and do these shots in very specific ways to maximize the tracers that are fired out from my position, because the tracers kind of fan out in a cone shape when they activate. So you want to be close to your targets. I am also very sorry for everyone's ears, because you're going to hear a lot of the Unmaker for the rest of the run, and it is very loud, especially in this room. This room has like the loudest reverb. So it's going to be very loud. So this 3rd wave has a bunch of Hell Knights spawn in, so we want to be very careful not to face tank too hard. It's very easy to just run into a whole bunch of fireballs from them and lose 80 plus health, if not more, depending on your armor. Thankfully, we have enough cells spawn in over time to where we can grab them as we go. Otherwise, it's mostly just fighting. This level is technically slower now because I don't have a 2-key unmaker, which was the old strat. But getting the second key, like I said, is not really feasible while still being able to preserve health for the skip in Flotsam. And it's just faster to do Flotsam that way anyways. Once we get rid of these, so we're on the last wave now. This is a very dangerous wave because there are a whole bunch of arachnotrons that we want to get rid of immediately that are all on the ledges. There are also tons of enemies that spawn. Like, even with this being just a timed script, we want to kill everything because we will have to grab... There's a soul sphere and a mega armor in the middle area, right where the exit's going to be. We need to grab those for the next level because we have more skips coming up. Unfortunately, as you can see, there were a ton of fireballs in my face, and had a fair amount of death. But saving frequently is important. The Doom 64 engine does technically support demos, but there's no way to record demos, so we don't require a single segment run like source port runs typically do. As long as you just get from start to finish, that's all you need. So save is needed. Now that all the electrons are good, just kind of get rid of all the other threats as needed. Being very, very cautious and waiting for the timer to run out. Like I said, we need to pick up the Mega Sphere, or the Soul Sphere, and the Mega Armor. So gotta be careful not to take any more hits. I think I took one very light tap at the very end. That was like one of the lowest possible damage rolls I could get from that. So very lucky. So, Helmo was normally like a 9-minute level, but there is a new skip added in recent versions that saves 7 minutes, so we're going to be doing that. So, there are these new hidden platforms out here that show up once you activate the first switch. So, each of those hidden platforms has a Mega Armor, and you need to collect that. And once you've collected all 3 of those Mega Armors, a secret shrine that's also out in the distance lowers and allows you to get inside. And this secret shrine has a teleporter that takes you all the way to the final wave. You normally have to fight like 6 or 7 waves of enemies. Like I said, it takes 9 minutes normally. This skips to the final wave, which means we already skipped a whole bunch. And then we're going to skip even more right here. Mother Demons show up, and we're actually going to use the Mother Demon's flame attack here to jump into the exit. Now, unfortunately, because we did the super secret shrine skip, the invulnerability does not spawn, which makes this significantly more dangerous, and unfortunately, I died a lot setting this up. This is a very difficult setup to do because of just the rockets getting in the way and the flame attack being... I wish it was a little more reliable. But we managed to get the skip eventually. It's just finding the correct distance and such. I really want to practice this more whenever I try and do this run again, because it is an unfortunate time loss here. It took me like 30 extra seconds. But we do the death exit right here. Like, I just barely crossed the sector that kills me. And we death exit there. So, this does save 7 minutes. Unfortunately, compared to the old route where we could actually use an invulnerability to skip dying in that death exit, we lose all of our equipment now. So this isn't significant for this level for Razor Glass. We are going to pick up this hidden backpack just to have some more ammo for the next level, but this means the upcoming level, Void Dreams, we revert to a very old route, because in the latest 2.7 route, I would still have all of my equipment. So all I would need to do would be to get 3 of the 6 keys, and then immediately leave. Because I would have 2 demon keys already, and I could use that on the final fight. That's not the case now, playing on 210, since I'm doing this from a death exit. So, I have to revert to a very old route that I had done, where I need to pick up 2 extra demon keys while getting 3 normal keys to open the passage to the final fight. And this is extremely scary. This is probably the most difficult part of the run in this category, because there's just going to be so much stuff happening. So we top off on health right here. We thankfully only have to visit half of the map. Like, we can completely skip the other side of the map. That being said, this half of the map sucks to deal with in this category. Because there's just going to be projectiles everywhere. It's just very tense. Tons of enemies that are just going to be sniping you from all the way across the other side of the map. It's just very scary, very time consuming this way. Unfortunately, I did fall off right here. I didn't lose any health, but I had to climb back up, so that's time loss. And it really goes to show how slippery the controls in Doom can be. Your momentum is very preserved at times if you're not touching the ground, so it can be easy to just kind of walk off edges and you have no air control. So we pick up a hidden unmaker there. We need that for later. We pick up the rocket launcher as well. We have 2 of the 3 keys. We're going to be picking up the first demon key next. This little courtyard area is very scary, very difficult to deal with. Enemies love to get in the way, and I should have really switched over to the super shotgun here because I didn't want to blow myself up with the rocket launcher, but enemies were in really bad positions. We are going to take care of one Hell Knight here. You can technically run past this one, but you're going to be dealing with so much other stuff, and it's likely he blocks you. So I just take care of him. Now, we need to make 2 of the most difficult jumps I've ever had to do in a Doom game. These are ridiculous jumps to make to get to this first demon key. You need to be running max speed with max acceleration going up the steps. And you need a very precise angle. And after you make the first one, now you have to do the second jump from this little lip up here, which also takes a few tries. So, and you're having a bunch of projectiles fired at you while you're doing this. So you have to pray that the projectiles aren't going to kill you and aren't going to knock you off. So I think it took like 3 tries on each jump, which is actually decent, all things considered, because those jumps are absolutely ridiculous. But I need that demon key. We absolutely need to get 2 demon keys for the end fight to go smoothly. So we're going to make our way to the yellow key coming up, which is the only thing we need for progression. But you can just see just tons of everything everywhere. I do use the super shotgun to stun enemies as needed, since it fires the 20 pellets. Each of those pellets has their own chance of getting a pain chance on an enemy and stunning them. All we have to do at this point is just escape. So I do grab a berserk because I realized my health was low, and that was definitely the correct choice, as we'll see a little bit later. But we're going to take a secret passage out of here, so if you take this route out, after you've grabbed the yellow key, a new route opens up back here to get you back into the starting area. This is good because we don't need any keys from the other side of the map, but this will also lead to the other demon key. I actually got trapped here for just a second. I almost died. I was very fortunate I didn't. But we drop into this secret from here now that we're back in the starting area. That gets us the second demon key that we need. We can just instantly leave. And we can go straight into the final fight. And health is no longer a concern because there's no more enemies on the way. And we get a Megasphere to top off. Unfortunately, getting the 3rd demon key is not a viable solution for this category because getting the 3rd demon key requires all 6 normal keys. So that does not save any time. So 2 keys is thankfully enough here. There are 2 Nightmare Cyber Demons in this room, and this is why we want the 2 demon keys for the Unmaker, because that is not a good spot to fire the BFG at. You can't get close enough to them for the tracers to do anything. And the Nightmare Cyber Demons have 8,000 health apiece. So it's really, really slow to kill them with the BFG. And if you don't have an upgraded Unmaker, it takes forever to kill them. To the point where your invulnerabilities are definitely going to run out before you kill them, and they're probably just going to pop you with rockets, or you're going to get overwhelmed by the Hell Knights that are all over this room. There's not really feasible in this category to go with less than 2 keys. And I know doing this route is very annoying, and it does add like an extra minute and a half compared to doing this level with the route where we could keep all our equipment, but saving the 7 minutes in hell mode is just too much of a gain. So, gotta make sacrifices. So, thankfully the rest of the run is relatively unchanged coming up. This is still just a lot of waiting for good night and good luck. There were some things like there are no more secrets in this level. Like everything that was a secret is no longer a secret. So Squiba's philosophy was that every secret should be able to be backtracked to, aside from one of the secret levels where the gimmick is that you can't go back. And I think that's a good change overall, because people like the secret hunt, and I'm sure there were definitely some frustrated people like me, where I'm just like, I don't know where these secrets are, and I can't go back, so I have to play the entire level over again. But I think this is a good gimmick for what it is. It's very easy gimmick, but it's a good cooldown. So basically, as we enter these maps, these are actually remnants of Squiba's old WADs that they had done. But each of these little mini-maps slowly fade away into darkness, and those darkness sectors become poison sectors. And enemies pop out of them and such. So I think that's a neat way to do a more chill version. This is a really easy map for how late it is in the WAD. So it is nice to get a break right here. And we came in with a bunch of cells coming out of Void Dreams. So ammo is not a concern here. So it's just a very easy level to just relax on as we just kind of prep for the last level coming up. So the other three WADs before this. So we have UnMaking. This is the final in Squiba's series. The other two that I've played are Unaligned, which is the first WAD. It's a Doom 1 WAD. And I have also played Unbeliever, which is the Heretic WAD. I have not played the Doom 2 based one, and I should do that at some point, because I'm pretty sure that's where this map comes from. I just use rockets here for fun. There's plenty of cells, so like there's no reason to conserve them, but I just do it just to kind of mix it up a bit. It's a pretty easy room here, as long as I don't face tank myself with a rocket against a wall. We just wait for all the sectors to clear out. This level definitely is scarier from a pistol start because you do have to manage your ammo more carefully. But in a full game run, this level is completely trivial, and it really does not matter much for either category. Just in Max, you would just have to worry about not missing enemies since you can't return. That's only really a concern for the first two rooms here. But since we're playing Speed, not an issue at all. We'll worry about that when I get around to doing Max things. But this is the last wave right here, once you have the little rush of Nightmare Pinkies and Imps. So this is the last room in the level. This is the very first room in Unaligned. So I didn't know that significance until I finished this WAD and then played Unaligned after. And I was like, wow, that's familiar. And I particularly love the lighting in this room. Like, I do recommend giving this WAD a try if custom Doom levels is like your thing and this looks interesting, because this is a really unique experience. We've had a lot of activity with Doom 64 WADs in the last few years, but this still remains my favorite just because of how experimental it is, and just the overall aesthetics are just really neat. Like, a lot of really good custom texture work, and just the scripting is neat. There's just a lot of situations that you don't get in base Doom 64. Alright, so we're just finishing up here. We just have to wait until all the lights go out in this area. Just the outer ones go out, piece at a time. The only things we really have to watch out for are, there are some lost souls that spawn outside and kind of come into the room, so you just have to watch for them. We have a 2-key Unmaker, so it's not a problem to get rid of them. The biggest concern is that Nightmare Mancubus over there, who can really ruin your day if he gets fireballs off on you, so we'll make sure we get rid of him. Just a few more smaller waves right here. Soul Spear is just a nice recharge. Like I said, this level is really easy for how late it is. So it's just good to get a breather, because the next level is a little bit tense with the strat. So I'm going to stand right here for fun and just block a Hell Knight from showing up. and it turns into poison sector. So I get off. But after we wait for a bit, this area is going to turn dark as well. And then the level script ends the level, which I think is a cool way to finish it out. So that brings us to the last level right here. This is Aligned in Darkness. There are only 4 mandatory enemies that we need to kill here to end the map. So we're gonna stock up on all our resources here, so we get all 3 demon keys. So we have a triple UnMaker now, firing triple lasers. So I take a very specific route right here. When I leave that hallway, I immediately strafe run forward and to the right, so I can see that switch. That switch is very important. We're going to take a couple of laps around the room and wait out some timers, because this is another timer-based script before the first Cyber Demon gets in, which is the first triggerable enemy. So anybody who's seen my runs of the base game knows we do a super shotgun trick in Breakdown where I shoot a switch from the floor. The super shotgun has a little bit of variance in the height of where the pellets shoot, and they can also hit switches this way that are on different heights if you get lucky. So this is relevant because there's a secret room here that has a bunch of equipment that we really want, and it also acts as a safe space. So the intended way to be able to hit that is for a mother demon to show up much later, and then you use the flame attack to get enough height to where you can shoot the switch. But this is why we got enough shells in previous levels, so we can be able to hit the switch from the ground floor and then use that in earlier waves. So this is absolutely critical because without the invulnerabilities in that room, this strat does not work. You would absolutely just die because there are a bunch of enemies constantly spawning in. You can see me using rockets to at least clear out the arachnotrons just to have a little bit less to worry about. So after I make this second pass right here, this is when the first Cyber Demon shows up. Now, unfortunately, I actually went too early. So what happens is the major enemies spawn in by spawning way out of bounds, and then they take a teleporter into the main arena. Now, I think I went too fast, and I blocked the Cyber Demon from teleporting in. So I was very confused right here, and after I realized the Cyber Demon was not wanting to show up, I reload the save. And I just kind of wait a little bit longer this time. So I had to do the switch press again, unfortunately. It's annoying. But once we got it there, now you can see the Cyber Demon is right on the right there. So I think I had blocked him the first time, unfortunately. So we get right in his face, just kind of stun lock him with the triple UnMaker. After we kill him, 2 Nightmare Cyber Demons will spawn in an opposite corner. So I turned to the right as if I had been facing the switch again. The first Nightmare Cyber Demon will be in the corner to the right of that. So we're going to get rid of him, and then we are going to pick up the ammo, and we're going to activate the secret again and get the other invulnerability because the first invulnerability runs out. So thankfully I got good luck there and was able to grab that instantly. After we leave this teleport, we go straight into the left and make a harsh turn, and that puts us where the second Nightmare Cyber Demon is. So that allows us to get to him instantly, face tank him, just get rid of him. Don't have to worry about it. Okay. Once that Nightmare Cyber Demon is gone, I start counting a timer, so we'll get to that in a bit. But we need to get back into the secret room safely before this invulnerability runs out, because Mother Demons are going to spawn in. We've killed 3 of the 4 necessary enemies. The last enemy necessary is a Nightmare Mother Demon that will spawn in roughly 2 minutes and 15 seconds after both Nightmare Cyber Demons are killed. This is why I want to get back into the secret room right here, because now I can just wait. So I do what I did with Prismatigoria's Dark Forest room. I just look at my life split timer as I'm killing the Cyber Demon. Figure out I'm going to be waiting another 2 minutes and 15 seconds, assuming I don't have to reload a save. And then I'm going to leave this room roughly around that time, because the Nightmare Mother Demon will pop up by then. This does make for a kind of a boring ending to look at, but trust me, you do not want to be in that arena if you don't have to be, because there is so much crap that goes on in there. I will have to deal with that for Max. I'm not looking forward to that, but I can put that off for a little while longer. So, Like I said, it's just a bunch of waiting. You see me turning around. You see me not moving, actually, and there's a reason for not moving. There are pain elementals that do spawn into the arena. I have had pain elementals actually make it into the secret teleporter and then just immediately destroy me because I'm point blank with a pain elemental throwing explosive lost souls in my face. So this is why I just stand still right here. But otherwise, there isn't really anything else to talk about. Once the timer elapses enough, I leave the room. I kill the nightmare mother demon after waiting a little bit longer, I think, because I went a little early, but thankfully didn't block out. But once I kill the nightmare's mother demon, I will give a volume warning. Afterwards, it will be very, very loud as a bunch of mother demons will quickly spawn in and then immediately die. And it's a very long scream. Very loud scream, I should say. But otherwise, this is the end of the run after reaching the results screen coming up. Thank you for watching. Big shoutouts to Squibbo for not only making the WA, but also making the updates that definitely made it more speedrun friendly. It's really fun to play. If you would like any more details about this run, then feel free to contact me at any point. But otherwise, I am going to move on to max. Like, this isn't the most well-executed run, but I'll probably lower the time at some other point. But I want to get to max, which is 100% kills, 100% secrets on every level, including the secret levels. So I will deal with that at some point. But otherwise, I'm signing off. I'll see y'all later. Thank y'all for listening.